Welcome to episode 10 of Diary of a Private Investigator. My name is Nathan. I am the owner and lead investigator of Dolos Investigations, based in Sheffield and Doncaster in England. Welcome back to the show. You may have known, I have to keep looking over there all the time for those on YouTube, because we've got a different camera profile set up today, because I've got a guest with me who I will introduce in a minute. I'm just going to do a little bit of preamble as I normally do. You may have noticed that this episode has not dropped at the end of November. That is because either due to illness or recording restrictions, i.e. I couldn't get down. But also we record at the end of each month, and obviously the end of December is Christmas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stagger it out and probably have a 6-week period for sort of November, December, January. So we'll miss the Christmas period, and episode 11 will probably drop the end of January. So we'll get back on track there. So bear with us there. So you won't be able to listen to my lovely voice over Christmas unless you like to listen to the episodes more than once, which why would you? Quick introductions in respect of what to do and to subscribe. If you are on YouTube, please leave a positive review if you're listening to it on the podcast. Please tell your friends. We are growing. We're going to have a get-together after this episode to discuss next year's and how we're going to plan it all out and grow even bigger and get merchandise. And you can have like Nathan T-shirts and things like that. Okay, I'm going to crack straight onto the episode because obviously I don't want to talk for too long when I've got somebody sat opposite me. It's a little bit rude. So welcome back, Dan Burke. I was going to call you Daniel Burke then, but it's not Sunday and you're not being told off. So, Dan, introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Dan Burke from Delta 74 Private Investigations. We're based in Castle Donington, covered Derby, Nottingham, Leicester, and it's niche markets, so nationwide as well. And yeah, that's us really. That's what I do.
So those who listened to episode 2, we're on episode 10 now. So obviously you came to join me on episode 2. We talked about sort of your business and general private investigation and some stories that we've got and things like that. Fast forward 8 months. I did say that last time we'd probably talk about you have/had a shop where you sell certain covert kit. I said you can come back on and we'll talk about the shop and the kit and stuff like that. It kind of ties in nicely with this episode because what I wanted to do is sort of talk about the kit that
people
that we
love
use.
hearing about kit as well.
Yeah.
Networking events. Oh, tell me about your gadgets. They love it. They do.
Yeah. So, and also what I found is that the listenership that I've got, and obviously there's an email address there, diaryofaprivateinvestigator@gmail.com. So please tell me if there's anything different. That a lot of the listeners that I've got are people either in the industry or people wanting to get into the industry, as opposed to people who are just generally interested in private investigation. So I do get some feedback from those people. So what I do want is, if anybody is listening to this and wants to give me some feedback or ask me some questions, any ideas that they've got, please do email me directly so I can think of some topics to talk about. So for now, we're going to talk about the kit.
It's a massive subject, so you probably can do another episode.
So just a quick introduction before we start getting into the kit. So back in episode 1, I feel really weird because I keep having to look over there to the cameras and as opposed to look at you. I don't mind. So back in episode 1, I talked about our industry being a little bit like the magic circle. Yeah. Whereas obviously there are secrets that we have that we use. There are also books out there about what we do and what we get up to. There's training manuals, training courses, there's Amazon, there's other websites that sell certain kits and things like that. So if you wanted to do a lot of research into the stuff that we use, you can do so much research and find out 75% of the stuff that we've got and that we use and the techniques and stuff like that. There is going to be some techniques that we're not going to talk about on the show because of the sensitivity around them. We have to look after our operators and protect them and protect the tactics that we employ. But we will talk about certain stuff and certain kits that we use.
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
In the industry. So hopefully we're going to satisfy everybody. We're going to whet everybody's appetite with the stuff that we have, and also keep a few secrets back as to not upset the operators out there.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay, I'm getting dry already. My mouth's already gone, so I might let you do some talking. So the first topic that I've written down is, let's talk about vehicles.
Okay,
the vehicles that we use.
Yeah, it's a big topic. So you've got, like we discussed before, the van versus car. I personally run a car, and you've got a van set up. The difference for me, about the only one really, is the 360 view a car gives you, because obviously we've got windows all 360 around. So in terms of what we do, producing evidence, that's our bread and butter product. I can get, in my opinion, get more evidence through shooting through the back windows, whereby you would have a panel there or a door. But I've just changed cars, so shopping was reignited it all on what to look for, and I don't want to say the make and model I've got at the minute, so that people can't tie it to me. But SUVs now seem to be absolute commonplace. Your bigger school run mum cars, your Mazda CX-5s, Audi Q3s, that bigger hatchback type vehicle seems to be the most popular now. So I think that's what's generally popping up more for what we're using. I did have a Peugeot 308 previously, which was a fantastic vehicle. Did me for 5 years, but it, profile-wise, just got a bit small, and I did feel that on the road. When I'd plot up, I'd sit in a line of cars in a car park, and mine would be noticeably shorter. If you were to think of a row of roofs on a street, my car would have not been at the building height of all the other roofs of cars. So for me, I thought that stuck out, so I had to go a bit bigger. Vans, I think they fit in any street in the UK, whether it be in Chelsea, Kensington, you can stick a van on the street, or if it be in the really rough ends of Birmingham, you can put a van there, and that profile just really helps you blend in anywhere, I think. Whereas a car, very select. If you turn up in an R-Reg car on Chelsea, unless it's a really antique nice car, it's not going to fit. So I think you have to be very selective with cars. With vans, you can get any van anywhere. That's the only difference as well, actually, thinking about it.
Yeah. So I mean, just for clarity, I've got access to cars and vans, honest.
Yeah.
not just my van. My van's my primary vehicle. So it is important if you can have access to multiple vehicles to do that. There's a couple of things. So when it comes to a van, I mean, and this is the same for cars as well, bland is, I'm going to just invent a new saying now, bland is best. You sort of want something that's bland, that doesn't sort of stick out, that's non-distinctive.
Yeah, definitely.
I have worked with, obviously we both worked with operators over the years, and I think sometimes it's a lot of what we do, I find, is second nature, and you don't even think about it until you work with an operator who then tips up with something, and you think, why on earth have you done that? So I mean, I work with one person, I won't be too prescriptive, but they turned up and they got stickers all over the car.
Okay.
Rather bespoke stickerage on the car. And I was like, why on earth are you using that on a surveillance tasking? Because anybody who sees that, and then if the person moves from A to B and then they see another car with those stickers on the car, it's
distinctive
like,
markers, aren't they? Yeah.
Why would you do that? So your vehicle, as general rules of thumb, it tends to be quite bland.
Yeah. All of my training years ago was keep it as bland as possible. So don't have air fresheners, even the internals as well as the externals. Don't have air fresheners hanging from the rear view mirror. Don't have phone holders on the windscreen. Anything that's gonna, attract attention or catch somebody's eye is different. That was always the main training as well. Yeah,
there's things like masks. You'll get like screen masks on back of seats, or high-vis jackets, boxing gloves dangling down, things like that. Where sometimes you might want to use things for a bit of a cover or a distraction, like a high-vis jacket or a mask. It draws your eye away from where you're sat,
of course,
but equally it still draws your eye.
Yeah.
So you kind of want to just have it, like you said, just absolute bland, nothing in there. So it's nondescript and people don't even pay attention to it.
And colour as well. I mean, I have worked with a guy, going back to what you said about, you don't think about it until somebody else does something different. Joined a team working down south, and this guy tipped up in a red car. And we was all like, why has he got a red car? But do you know what? It actually worked. Somehow, I don't know how, it blended in so naturally. And one of the guys I was working with actually walked around the area, and we counted like 7 or 8 red cars within the vicinity. So that actually did work. But I was always told, no bright colours, red, stay away from it all the time. Especially, I'd say if your listenership is looking at people getting into the industry, I would say stay away from red. Obviously once you've got the tactics and training down in its second nature, you'll get away with it. But think about colour. Very bland, neutral, darker colours as well. Stay away from white because it looks like a police car almost in the rear view mirror. And as part of vehicles, that's another consideration you want. What does your car look like in someone's rear view mirror? So when you're shopping, or when I'm shopping, definitely I'll always have a good look at the front of that car and consider what it will look like in someone's rear view mirror, because that's what your subject's going to see. That's what we do. We follow people, so we're going to be behind people. So I've gone for a vehicle that's made by a massive motor group, and all the headlights are very, very similar. So you will see those headlights, almost 60% of cars on the road now, in some form or fashion, with the same lighting as well.
My driving instructor back in long time ago since I had lessons, but my driving instructor, whether it's true or not, he said the hardest colour for the human eye to see is red.
Right.
But that was more to do with accident statistics, that when people were looking, they didn't see the red and they'd pull out and they'd have a crash. But just reminded me of them when you talking about red cars and stuff like that. I thought, well, actually, my old driving instructor Freddie sort of said, "Oh, watch out for red cars."
Well, there will be some distinction in that, because red light, back to military days, red light at night, you if you got caught with white light, you get murdered. But for some reason, red light's acceptable. So it probably is something to do with the back of the eyes that we can't see potentially. Yeah. I won't have a red car. No way.
No. Well, yeah. Obviously, I was going to tell you about my other car, but I'm not. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you about what other car I use. So we touched on colours of cars. Like I said, we're going to keep it quite generic. I mean, I think the good thing is you can use multiple vehicles and what have you. The other thing is engine size as well. You obviously want something with a little bit of poke.
Definitely, yeah.
To it, because there are times where you're behind subjects who don't adhere to the speed limit. So you need to make sure that you can either keep up with them, or if you're running a parallel, you need to get ahead of them, obviously sticking within the speed limit. Yeah. So you can't have like a 1.1 engine or something that's
I mean, my minimum would be 2 litres. And the beauty of like or shopping on Auto Trader, for example, you can put in the specifics and it only shows you that car. And that's how I shop for my new car now. I didn't go for any make or model in particular. I just put in, I want a 2 litre engine. The main stipulation on actual speed and performance, I wanted the acceleration for wanted it to be between, I think it was I selected 6 to 8 seconds and 8 to 10 seconds, 0 to 60, because that's where you can make the ground up safely. Is when you go to a red light or off the edge of a roundabout, you can get round cars really easily, and your car needs that acceleration power. Top end power is obviously key as well, which is where you get the 2 litre engine minimum, I'd say, so that you can make ground on the motorway, because that's always a great place to make ground if you end up cycling at the back of the follow. But yeah, I'd say if you can afford it, because that's where the money is in performance, 6 to 8 second car. If not, an 8 to 10 second 0 to 60 car is always good as well. But they're the main 2 considerations for me.
Top tip as well when you come in to buy a van, he says, smirking slightly, don't buy a van that's got a restrictor on it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I may or may not have bought a van many years ago that had a restrictor on it at 70 miles an hour, which was interesting. When I got on the motorway, I went,
Oh, God.
like, putting foot down and like just not moving. I was like, what's happening here? So that quickly got rectified.
The other big one for cars is obviously fuel consumption. You can't have an electric car. They can't even be on the radar, unfortunately. So, for any listeners that are worried about being followed, if you see an electric car behind you,
you're safe.
Yeah, it's not going to be one of us.
You're only going to get followed for 100 miles, and then you're safe. Just head on motorway, and
pretty much. Yeah,
you'll shake them off. Car versus van. I think there's one important point that you've missed when it obviously you've touched upon visibility and where it can sit for hours on end and sort of statics and things like that. On a car, you only get 50% tax relief. On a van, you get 100% tax relief.
Okay, yeah.
So call me a tight northern bastard, but that may or may not have influenced my decision as to whether to buy a car or a van for my primary vehicle.
Right,
you see. So if you're self-employed and you're thinking about it, you get better tax relief on a van.
Right. That explains why most of Northerners do have vans.
Yeah. Well, every up north has got vans, every down south's got a car. So,
yeah, definitely.
Or down south, they've got an electric scooter.
Yeah.
Or a taxi.
Yeah, taxis.
Or a taxi.
I mean, obviously that's restrictive to London. I couldn't. Yeah. It wouldn't be feasible for us in the Midlands and up north to run a taxi. You wouldn't get anywhere near your returns on actually being a taxi driver, I think. But obviously in London, there was a TV show, which is where most of our secrets get exploited. Hunted has a bit to answer for, actually, as well. Yeah. But they actually used, I think they were portraying MI5, and they used a taxi cab. Yeah. And it was a black cab, and we do use them. They are fantastic assets, absolutely. So if you looking to operate in London and you can get hold of a taxi cab, black cab, then go for it. Yeah. I know people have used Uber signs in the past, but I don't know if that's legal or not anymore. I think. Yeah,
I mean, for me, I mean, there are certain signage that I own that, depending on where I've been deployed, that I have used the signage on one of my vehicles for that reason. But again, it's a bit like the high vis bit. You have to be careful, because if you're static, fine. If you're going to go mobile, then obviously if you have a sign that's sort of identifiable in any way, shape or form, and then all of a sudden they've moved 10 miles down the road and see the same vehicle with the same signage, or if they've seen your number plate and then all of a sudden you've taken the signage off, because obviously magnetic signing is the way forward, you've got to be careful of that. I mean, most of our subjects aren't that savvy when it comes to recognising number plates or recognising vehicles. They're not, unless you tend to find that 99% of them are not surveillance aware in any way, shape or form. And the ones that are anti-surveillance will probably be anti-surveillance no matter what you do to your vehicle, they'll still recognise it. So you kind of like that, but you do need to be careful of how you dress your vehicle. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it goes back to the stickers as well. That falls into the same category for me as well. Yeah. Thinking about a scenario, probably I have seen one work with Uber stickers really well outside of Heathrow. We had a flight that we needed to get somebody off of and see where they went to afterwards, and he was able to sit outside nearly all day because he had the Uber stickers on. It worked really, really well for him. Even better still if they get him back in your car. Yeah, definitely. Where are you going to? Oh, really? Are you meeting anybody? Am I picking anybody else up en route? Well, this is why you need to be careful when you get to an Uber and say, "Oh, is this for Charlotte?" Yes, it is. You get in. Okay, moving on, because we've got a broad horizon of topics to cover. One quick story that I noted down is that when I left the police, so in my latter days in the police, I used to have two-seaters. I had a good old Z3. Okay, yeah. And then when I hit that certain age where I didn't need to blat everywhere, I just got a Mini 1. And I found myself just bimbling around at 30 miles an hour. Like, life could be a dream. With roof down and loving life. But it had two big fat black spoilers down the bonnet. Yeah. And I just tootle around. Then obviously I left the police, and then I got into sort of the surveillance scene. So clearly I had to get rid of it. And when I got rid of it, I got a 56 plate VW Jetta in grey.
Yeah.
And talk about add to your depression. I was driving this VW Jetta in grey, and I was like miserable as can be, like driving around going, this car is horrible. It was like completely and utterly practical.
Yeah.
But what a rubbish car to drive. After having blatting around or having roof down its sun to suddenly having a car. And I think he got no aircon as well. And one of my first jobs, it was like 30 odd degrees with no aircon. And I was sat in back sweating me nudges off.
Yeah, make sure you've got your aircon topped up.
Get a car with aircon or a van with aircon, definitely.
And heated seats for the winter.
Yeah. Right, moving swiftly on then. Again, in no particular order, I've just wrote them down as they come to me. Camcorder or SLR cameras. So I'm massively not into my tech kit.
Okay.
I don't know if you are or not.
I've done a bit of research over the years. Yeah, I've used both SLRs and camcorders, handy cams. I only stick to handy cams now. The main comparison for me is the nighttime quality, whereby your digital SLRs and your mirrorless cameras are a lot more expensive, but they do get the better pictures in total darkness or low light capabilities. Whereas your camcorders, because it's video, they can only suck so much light into their sensor. So if you're going to be doing a lot of nighttime stuff, it's probably worth you looking at a mirrorless camera, not an SLR camera, because they can, take in so much more light and get it onto their sensor, so your picture's going to be better. But with that comes the massive price point. You're looking at £1,000 minimum for a half decent one, being a Sony A7 or an A7S 1 or 2. And for me, camcorders on that front are a lot more affordable. The most common camcorder now that I see is everyone's got the Sony AX53. Sony don't actually make that anymore because, annoyingly, Sony have realised that that's a dying market, a bit like Blockbuster against Netflix. Everybody wants Netflix now. Blockbuster couldn't rent in physical shops, so the same as Sony has realised with camcorders, they can't. What's the point in selling a camcorder anymore when everyone's got a movie making camcorder in their phone in their pocket? So for me, everything's at the minute camcorders, but it potentially might go to phones. They'll never die out completely. They can't do because of the hobbyist and what have you. But they haven't brought out an upgrade since the X43. So they stopped making the X53, I think, in 2020. They brought out the X43, which performance-wise is exactly the same, but it's not as, I don't think it's as good. That's why. So what the AX53 has got is it's got an eyepiece. So it's got the old style, you put it up to your eye and film through that. And for shooting at night, that's a massive tactical advantage, whereby you've not got a big blaring LCD screen lighting up the whole car.
Light up like Terry's All Gold.
Yeah. Whereas the X43, they got away with the viewfinder. So it's just not as good tactically. So with that, the X53 wins hands down, but they're not making them anymore. So
that 2020, clearly you're right because you know your eggs, as they say. Because I had a Panasonic originally. Because you move up the scale, don't you? Always start off with, I'll just buy this, and then when you start doing the job, you're like, I better invest some more money in the kit. And before you know it, you start off with, like everything in life, you start off with cheap, and then you go, cheap's for a reason. You spend a bit more, The Panasonic was great because it had the old pre-record function.
That's right, yeah.
Where when you press record, if you set it up, you could press record, but it already captured the previous 5 seconds.
It's constantly recording,
which was brilliant when you were watching a door and waiting for someone to come out of a door. you could just have it set up
Yeah.
at the door, forget about it, and then all of a sudden, when obviously somebody's already walking out, and you're like, "Oh my god, I'd like that!" Oh,
Yeah,
let's get excited again.
in.
You'd already got it with a Panasonic with a Sony. You've got to literally be there with you, either just recording it constantly and then do editing when you get home, or be alert all the time.
You've probably seen it in our forums whereby people do put them against each other.
Yeah.
Sony versus Panasonic. Image quality exactly the same, I'd say. The top end Panasonic, I can't remember what it's called, the VXC 670 or something like that, I think it's called, or the 900. Image quality, I would say exactly the same. Panasonic does have the pre-record function. What it lacks for me, and the reason I choose Sony over Panasonic, is the functionality. You can wire in a remote. You can wire in a HDMI cable and have a monitor, so that you're, talking about going back to being able to just watch something, and then instantly your thumb is on the record button straight away, so there's no delay. Whereby Panasonic don't have any wired capabilities for remotes or anything like that. You can use Wi-Fi remotes, but there is a delay there, and it uses more battery power in the back of your car. And that is always the biggest letdown for any of our kit, is battery power, because it's going back to electric car. It's a constant worry in the back of your head. Is how much power have I got? How much power have I got? And when you're looking at a 5-6 day job, working away, and you're in a hotel and you've got to charge everything up at night in the back of your car, if you've not got, feasibility in the back of your car with a leisure battery or whatever.
Or a power station. Item 53, Adam. When we get to item 53, 3 hours and 45 minutes into this recording, we'll talk about power stations and power banks.
Oh God, yeah. So that's why I choose Sony, is the functionality of it. I can wire in a remote instantly. There's no connectivity issues, whereby Panasonic is all Wi-Fi. You can remote it to your phone as well, but then you lose your phone capability and being able to send messages, view tracking apps, and all the extra bits that you need your phone for. And Facebook, burn through the hours.
You're bringing back memories here. When I used to have my Panasonic, and I had it secreted in a bag. And I was in a cafe, and the bag was on the floor, and I was like operating it from my phone. And I was like, "Oh, this is full like James Bond. This is like doing it and like zooming in and all sorts of stuff." It was brilliant. And then somebody walks past and looks over your shoulder, and what you were doing then? Nothing to see. Keep moving.
I mean, Sony does have that capability of the Wi-Fi. I've had such great effect to that, whereby I've been. A subject went into a house in a really tight little street, and thank God there was a cafe opposite. And I just sat in the window with a colleague, hid away the camera in a sleeve in my jacket, Wi-Fi'd it to my phone, and then I could just sit and wait. And as soon as that door opened, I just hit record on my phone, and we got the evidence. A guy coming out of that with his mistress from across the street. The Panasonic would have worked as well, but going back to it, Sony can do both if you want it to, but Panasonic can't wire. And in terms of my shop, that's one of my biggest sales is the wired remotes for the Sonys. So
I don't think people realise that the extra kit that we have, over and above just that. I mean, these things like, obviously I sort of made a bit of like tripods. I always get this wrong because I don't own one, because it's down to personal preference. Hague clamp or H clamp?
Oh, Hague, yeah.
Hague clamp.
Yeah.
There are people out there, aren't there, that they have the clamp so they can clamp it onto the headrest.
Yeah, I swear by them, I do personally, what Hague actually is a camera sports company, and they sell to the movie industry and companies like Top Gear.
Hague, if you're listening and you want to sponsor Diary of a Private Investigator, drop me an email and we'll do a feature all about Hague products.
Yeah.
Other products are available up until that point.
And they're based locally. I think in Mansfield. Don't quote me on this, but I think Mansfield way. So they are local as well. British supplier.
Gonna make a note of that. Approach Hague for sponsorship.
I don't think Hague actually, when I've spoke to Hague, I don't think they realise just how much of their kit is being used by surveillance operatives and private investigators. But they can attach all over the car. You've got they're thinking about a suction mount for your phone, we've got them for cameras, and our cameras weigh an absolute ton. They are so heavy for that. But the Hague suction mounts are fantastic. They just don't fall off. I've heard of them being stuck on somebody's window that had a factory tint on it, and when he drove off and started getting a bit fast and jumping over speed bumps, it ripped the tint off the window. it didn't lose its suction. It just fully pulled the tint off the window. That's how strong they are. Yeah.
Or poor quality the tint was.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Or not. So, yeah. When I again, this is an embarrassing story, but like I said, I've thrown a few stories in just to sort of
whet the appetite.
Yeah. So when I first started, I had a digital camera.
Yeah.
The old fashioned sort of. Obviously, if you're on YouTube, you can see the size of my hand. If you're listening to a podcast, it's the old digital camera, about sort of 3 inches by sort of 5 inches.
A bit bigger than like a matchbox, but a bit bigger. Yeah.
And it's like you turn it on, it goes like zooms in and zooms out. And I finished up getting a job over in Liverpool, which is a good 2-hour drive for me.
Yeah.
And it was a first thing in the morning. Capture comes out of this house. So I was like keen as mustard, need to get into industry, need to get to know people and all this kind of business. And that's all I got, my little digital camera. So I shoot over, 2-hour drive, like first thing in the morning, get on plot for 6 a.m. and I'm sat there. This guy comes out of this house, turn on my camera, it's like like zooming in, zooming out. And then because it's dark, it couldn't capture him. And then obviously, then he's going to his car, then his headlights come on, and then it's like zooming in on headlights. And he's like, then he gets in his car and drives away. And I'm like, I've missed the shot.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no. So then I've got a 2-hour drive back. Then I have to report the fact that I've missed the shot. It's like, oh, can you do it again tomorrow? And I'm like, yeah, I'll go down and do it again tomorrow. 2 hours back to Liverpool, exactly the same scenario. So then obviously you go, right, I'm gonna have to invest in some kit.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing to say, but I'm not proud. But hey, we've got to learn by our mistakes. So that's when I then went out and bought a Gucci SLR camera, and so I got this great camera. And one of my pet hates is whenever you see an image of somebody doing surveillance, they have this like telescopic camera that's about 1.5 foot long out a window, like zooming in, like paparazzi. We don't use kit like that. But I got this SLR.
It has its place if you're
far away,
and
trying to photograph royal family,
from a hotel room. The only place I've ever used the SLR really. I've used them whilst being in my vehicle, but like you say, the lenses aren't that big. But we had to set up once a massive tripod, massive SLR, massive lens that needed its own tripod as well. Sat quite a far way away, and it just lived on there, rooted into the telly. And we just snapped away from there in the comfort of the hotel.
I think that's the thing as well, isn't it? Because obviously what I've tried to narrow it down is what's essential kit, and then what's other kit that you might use, that you might come into. I remember one of the first jobs that I did, I worked with a guy, and this guy was like Tackleberry from Police Academy, for those who are old enough to remember. He got kit for days, you name it, he got the kit, and he must have, he got like £10,000 worth of kit. He got kit for everything. Yeah. And then he only did one job a week. And I was like...
right, okay.
And I'm not saying like he did a big job a week, he just like did a job for 25 quid an hour a week. And I was like, you've spent a lot of money on kit, dude. But then you when you do this job for so long, you just finish up accumulating kit on kit. And I think we're at the stage now where if somebody else came into the industry and saw the stuff that we've got, they'd be thinking, flipping it, you've spent some money on on
probably.
Your kit.
I mean, for me, if you're getting into the industry, the camcorder to go for that's your price point's perfect and your image quality's where it should be for the price. You're looking at a Sony CX625. I mean, I used that last week. I've got one that lives in a little bag that I use when I go out on foot, because it's a lot smaller than the AX53. And a colleague just bought one off eBay for like 190 quid, maybe £200. So if you're starting into the industry, that'd be the camera to go for as an essential. That even I still use, and it gets me the image quality I want for not a bad price. It's got all the capabilities, Wi-Fi it to your phone. You can run remotes into it and everything else like that. That for me would be my essential gear that I couldn't leave home with. Definitely.
I think the other thing, the final point as well, is when you do insurance type jobs, i.e. Physical injury jobs, you need camcorders because you need to evidence how somebody is walking.
Yes.
If it's pertinent to an injury claim or something like that, as opposed to, obviously, I know SLRs have got video recording capabilities.
They're not built for it though.
But
they're built for pictures, and camcorders are built for video.
Yeah. So that's the other thing to bear in mind, the type of work that you're going to be getting.
Yeah. I mean, I tell clients when they ask about what we produce and what the actual product is, I say, like, we only do video because I can take a photo from a video, but I can't take a video from a photo.
Yeah.
And, paparazzi are good at this. They can make someone someone kissing their mum look a raunchy way if they've got the right angle, and they've got the speed of the cameras now. You put it on a sports mode and they can take 1,000 photos in one kiss. So they can pick one out that looks raunchy when it's just a bloke giving his mum a kiss goodbye or whatever, whereas video doesn't lie like that. You get the whole perspective of what happened, the whole context of what happened, whether it was a handshake and then a kiss on the cheek to say goodbye, or whether it was a hug and then a kiss. So that for me, that's
or a drugs transaction,
or
shaking
drugs,
hands.
yeah, exactly, yeah. The cash transaction and drugs being passed, that's massive for video. Whereas photos, you can manipulate it. So evidentially, for me, videos are always the best as well, which was something I didn't actually think about when you think. I was only thinking about hardware, not products. Yeah.
Mobile phones.
I love them. I think we see it a lot now when people ask for subcontractors to help out with their jobs. You must have X, Y, and Z kit. You must have a lens that can shoot from the moon and all that sort of stuff. No mobile phones. I just think to myself, like, you're limiting yourself. So that somebody might be an expert YouTuber that only shoots with their phone. I would be worried if they only turned up with a phone. Yeah,
that's the main point, isn't it? It shouldn't be your primary.
No, I wouldn't have thought it'd be your primary. But if you're in a position whereby you're tactically covert, nobody can see you. Sometimes now, there are full feature-length movies being shot on a mobile phone and edited via iPhone. They definitely have a place for me. Yeah. I use them a lot. I know typically a lot of the London guys, they don't bother, they don't want to carry a lot of kit because a lot of their jobs are following on foot, so they don't want to carry the kit, and they've got to carry their phone anyway. Yeah. So their image is all off their phone, and it's just so much quicker as well.
Yeah, there is a place. Certainly if you're sort of in a shopping centre and things like that, where there's eyes absolutely everywhere, it's much easier to get your phone out as opposed to get a camcorder out. And a lot of what we do as well is a lot of things that you can't teach is about your body language and acting natural. If you get, I was going to because I was going to touch upon the fact that the iPhones these days, certainly the latest ones, the nighttime picture quality is as good, if not better, than some of the other kit that we've got that's bespoke. So there are times in the right situation where I'll use my mobile phone to take a nighttime shot, because you just get such a better shot. Yeah. But you've obviously got to keep it still, and it'll take sort of 3 seconds to expose. So you can't be somewhere.
It's not tactically
over, where you stood there holding your phone, because you can't just like slide it out and take a cheeky snap. So there are times and places where the more kit you've got, the better options.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That you've got.
But go back to the speed of it. I mean, clients, private clients, definitely, that I find, they want to know the second it happens. If you find out that a husband or wife is cheating, your client wants to know what that person looks like. Have they got a mustache? Does she have her eyelashes done? Has she got extensions in? They want a photo they can zoom in and out and scrutinize on who their partner's cheating on them with, which is why a mobile phone is so good. Yeah. An operative can be on the job for me, take a photo on their phone and get a time on that, so it's evidential, and send it across to me instantly.
Yeah. And then the client can get in the car zoom right down to where they are, jump out, kick the snot out of the person, jump back in the car. It's brilliant for that. Yeah. Don't update the client straight away. Certainly if they're a bit volatile or nearby is what I've found. So quite often I'll just turn around and say, look, I'll update you at the end, or I'll update you. But I've done that before where I'm following somebody and they've met a man and they're like, what's he look like? How tall is he? Has he got a beard? Is he this? And your phone's pinging constant. You're like, I'm trying to observe what they're getting up to. I ain't got time to be texting you because by the time I've updated you, I've looked at my phone and then they've gone.
Ah, got you. Okay,
It was in a large shopping centre, so you got to keep your eyes on them all the time to find out what shop they're going in. I ain't got time to be sending you messages. But,
yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
that's a side thing. I very quickly wrote down. I'm trying to blot through them because I'm conscious of time. But I wrote down headphones as well that plug into your phone.
Yeah.
So obviously, originally when you used to buy your phone, you'd have the ones with the wires in.
Yeah.
The amount of times I've jumped into the back of my vehicle with the headphones in and almost like rip my ears out, or get them tangled, or trying to find them. So get the wireless ones.
Yes,
they're also less conspicuous as well when you're out and about on the street.
Yeah, there was a time whereby if you had a set of AirPods in, for example, even in London, you were looked at like, what the hell? He must have some money, or she must have some money. Whereas now everybody's got them, and there's so many brands. Yeah, you'd almost be sticking out if you had wide headphones now.
I think the youths of today as well, they seem to have them in anyway, don't they? My lad will have one in and just be listening to music in the background whilst having a conversation. I
can't do that.
I can't do that.
I'm too old now.
But you see that all the time where people have just got one in because they're listening to music. Yeah. Sometimes in shops as well, and you're like, I don't know if that's professional or not. But
yeah. You do see it a lot. And there is I've never actually used it so far on the actual job, but I have trialed it at home to make sure it works. But you can actually put an AirPod down on a table, walk away from it, and record what it hears to your phone directly in an audio file. Yeah. So that's a nice little sneaky trick if you wanted to use that one.
My clients done. One of my clients did that.
Yeah, it does work. Yeah. A bit scary, really. Tape an AirPod underneath a table, then move.
Well, we have other listening devices, but to be fair, I didn't actually write down listening devices. That's something else that we use that's quite niche. Shall we say? Right, moving on to covert cameras. Yeah. There are various covert cameras out there. And I've just wrote down a long time ago. I can still remember when I got berated on LinkedIn for taking. I kind of tried to get into LinkedIn, and I was doing like every 2 days. Oh, this is me doing this, and this is me. And I took a photograph, and it showed my covert camera. And I'm like, how dare you do this? People follow you on LinkedIn just to see what you're getting up to and where you are and what kit you're using and stuff like that. So I'm not too concerned about that because there are kit shops out there. You have one that obviously any Tom, Dick and Harry can sort of go on and either Google, like I keep saying, referencing Amazon, but there's like Alibaba and there's other websites out there that sell the covert kit. You can go into this spy shops who advertise themselves as spy shops that you can go into. I really don't. So if you do any kind of research, you'll find out the covert cameras that are out there.
If you just type it into Amazon, spy camera, you will be inundated with thousands of pages of different types of spy camera. I mean, the beauty of it now is the technology is so good, and the camera sensors and the camera lenses are so small, you can put them in the end of a ballpoint pen, the actual business end of a pen, whereby instead it doesn't work or function like a pen, but hidden in the end of there is a hidden camera.
My first covert camera was a pen. It was a pen, and the camera was in the clip that when you put it in your shirt pocket. The camera was actually in the clip and it was a pen as well, so you could actually write with it as a pen. And I think it was only £30 or something like that. It was cheap. And it was actually decent.
Yeah, coming from China, they are decent. They don't have a long life, I find. No. You're probably looking at a 6-month life, but for £30, it is cheap. Ours are professional grade, law standard, police evidential standard is what most of us use. But yeah, going back to it, I do understand why people would get worried. And one of the main suppliers I speak to, they purposely they put in so much money into research and development based on how long a covert camera, their shelf life is before it's broken. Because TV shows like Hunted, they will show the kit and equipment that is being used professionally by investigators and surveillance teams. So they are always trying to engineer the next product for the next, what they're looking at is in the next year, 2 years, putting a decent camera in something like that. So that going way back, the main ones everybody used was a key fob, but they are fully broke now. Certain criminals will fully go into a place and look purely for keys on tables, because they know that's what was the go-to for police teams using covert cameras. So they had to adapt and put cameras into other devices. I mean, if you were to think about it now, if you were doing anti-surveillance and trying to figure out what had a camera in, you would just go insane with paranoia of how many things you can get a camera in now. Which for me is why I don't understand personally why people get so hung up on covert cameras being public knowledge, because you can put a camera in anything. So if you wanted to make your own covert camera, which I know guys are doing to really good effects, it could be in anything, absolutely anything.
I think if there's one takeaway point that I want for people who aren't in the industry listening to this podcast, and as well for the people who are in the industry, is I think the biggest takeaway is that we invest a lot of money in our kit. We buy bespoke kit for the industry. We don't tend to shop off Amazon or Alibaba or the other websites out there and buy your cheap stuff from China or wherever, because we know that you need a reliable bit of kit, because when you're on the ground and you've got chance of getting that money shot, the last thing that you want to do is be worrying about your kit. So we pay for it, we invest in it, and we trial it as well. There's certain bits of kit out there that we know that we've used and it's absolute garbage, but you've already spent a couple of £100 on it, and then we talk to each other and it's like, has anybody tried this, has anybody tried that? Now don't touch that with a barge pole, waste of money. Use this. So we spend the money to invest
and the time. It takes such time researching. That's one thing when I started getting into it with the shop, research and development on what to sell and what would sell and what does well, making money. It takes so much time, as well as and when you're first getting into it, I remember the amount of hours I spent playing with cameras and finding out what worked. The time investment as well is unreal. And to anybody listening that wants to get into the industry, whilst you do have to make that monetary investment, please make the time investment in your equipment. So that you know how to use it. The amount of times I've had people call me after they've bought a product and said, oh, this didn't work to how I wanted it to work. Why did it do this? And it's like, well, did you press the right buttons? Did you do this? Did you do that? And it turns out they didn't read the manual. They just wanted to get it out of the box, press one button and it worked. When the kit's a bit more technical than that. Especially when you want it to be covert and hidden away, it's not going to just do what you want it to do like that all the time. So that's one thing about the covert cameras is the time and the monetary investment. But you can get them in anything. And I would say, if you're starting out, I would say invest in a covert camera and potentially look at Amazon. I
think you have to have a covert camera. You have to have covert capability. I wouldn't employ anybody to do a job of mine who didn't have a covert camera, which is why these were still in the essential bit of kit part of the discussion of what you need. They are definitely.
I mean, I've seen guys get sacked on a job whereby they've shared an image to the WhatsApp group, and the guy who's running the job, the ops manager, has gone, "How did you take that photo?" Oh, I put my phone in a pencil case, and then it's a see-through pencil case. So then I set it to slow record, and then I did this. It's like No, you didn't. The subject's looking at you taking that picture. Get off my job. Like, you absolute idiot. You've probably, your face is blown.
You're talking about.
Your face is blown. That subject is looking at you. You could not work on this job anymore. So as long as they don't see you again, we might be able to recover this job.
Yeah.
But you cannot be in a covert space, a cafe, a library, on a tube in London, and you trying to use your phone to good effect. It's not covert.
Yeah.
Whilst everybody is using their phones for their cameras and shooting YouTube and Instagram and social media, people do look at you doing it.
Yeah.
Whether they're jealous, whether they're judging you, whether they're just looking at what you're doing, they do take notice of you doing it. So you definitely need a covert for me.
Yeah, definitely. Right, so we've covered that. We've got covert cameras and trigger cameras. Trigger cameras are one of those that you kind of get to eventually. It's not the first bit of kit that you buy, and certainly for me, it was a good year or so. But it's one of those that once you've got it, you kind of use it more.
You can't live without it.
Yeah, and it's a bit like drones. I mean, I've got drones on the list as well.
Yeah.
There was a time where every man and the dog went out and bought a drone, and I was like, what do you need a drone for? And it was like, and then there was like one job where either you're out in the middle of nowhere, you couldn't quite get to it, or you needed to fly over and see if a vehicle was there, and you can't see the vehicle because it was an enclosed private road or a large house or something like that. And then once you've got it, you've got it. So there are what we call trigger cams, which obviously you need some sort of SIM card in there. So you've got the Wi-Fi capability to just deploy it and then come away and watch it from a distance.
Yeah, watch it on your phone or on an iPad. Yeah, I mean, what we've done essentially is quite clever. We've retrofitted, personal CCTV cameras that the market was CCTV cameras for your house, whereby it didn't need to run off your home Wi-Fi. It was sat at standalone and sat with a SIM card, and then we've just put a bit of green camouflage tape so we can stick it in a bush basically. They do have their place. They are fantastic bits of kit, but I will agree with you that they don't they're not an essential piece of kit when you're starting out. I think if you're in the industry and you're looking at a year, you're in for a year and you've not got one, you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot a little bit, because they can turn a one-man team into a two-man team, or a two-man team into a three-man team, because you then don't need to go and sit near someone's house or sit outside their work address, or, if for example, sitting outside of a farm, there aren't many places sometimes whereby you can do it covertly. So if you can put it in a bush opposite on the road, making sure it's on public land, and it's got phone signal, you can give yourself a third person on the team that's just sat watching that front gate or whatever. And it does work really, really well. So remote cameras are an absolute game changer now. I mean, people have been doing it for years. We've just not had the internet capability whereby we've been able to watch it live. Even when I started in 2016, probably 10 years before that, 2006, people were putting cameras in bushes that had long battery lives, big SD cards, big memory, and they'd just stick it outside of someone's house and just soak it all up all day. So it's not something new to people that are obviously going to be upset with us talking tactics. It's not something new that we've only just started doing this past 2 years or so. We've only just got the internet capability now. So they are fantastic bits of kit.
I mean, again, so all of a sudden you sort of realise how much kit you've got. I mean, I've got wildlife trigger cams, that activate upon somebody walking past. It'll take a clip of various length, which is designed for capturing wildlife out in the middle of nowhere. So they're already pre-cammed up. You can stick them in and obviously get a bit of undergrowth or something like that, cover them up. Absolutely brilliant. But is it good? It doesn't feed your lifetime. So you've got that if you want to just plant it and go and come back to it later. And then I've got another one with Wi-Fi connectivity where you then monitor it through your iPad or whatever, and you're some distance away. But like I said, what I tend to do is that you get a job and then you think, I need that bit of kit. So then you either just invest there and then you've got it for future jobs. So you don't have to go out and drop 10 grand on all the kit and then go, right, I'm here, try and get me a job. That's how I've done it. I've always I've reinvested the money that I've earned into the kit that I've got.
Yeah, that's how I started it as well.
Now I'm in the position. Right, moving quickly on, because I am mindful of time.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing. I mean, I think we can probably gloss over this one, because when we talk about trackers,
yeah, you can
it's the same thing, isn't it? You can go out and buy a tracker if you want to, but the trackers that we've got are made by surveillance operatives, bespoke to what we do. You were talking before we started recording regarding the ambience of having one that doesn't have flashing lights.
Yeah, so I have a lot of clients call me now and say, "Oh, how much is vehicle tracking?" And the package we provide is all in service. All that client has to do is download an app, log in, name, password, and then they've got it. They don't have to go out and worry about putting it on, getting it off, hiding it away, making sure it's working, making sure its battery's topped up, making sure it's got enough subscription service on it and all that extra stuff. But obviously it comes with a price, and lots of clients come to me and say, "Well, can I use my own tracker? I've got one. I paid £20 off Amazon." But it flashes every time it moves, and it buzzes, and it hums, or it makes an alarm sound, and they're not built for, the purpose. And like the Apple AirTags, they notify people. They're not what I would call passive. Yeah. Ours are completely passive. There's no sounds on them. There's no lights. They are as minimalistic as they can be. And the only thing that differentiates them is size. And the only reason that is is battery power. You want more battery power, they're going to have to be bigger. You want less, they're going to be smaller. Vehicle trackers, I would say for me, when I first started, I was told they were an essential piece of kit. I need to get one as soon as possible. And the person who told me was right. He was bang on. Because it's not illegal if you're doing surveillance anyway. They're classed as a surveillance aid. So if you've not got one, you are massively hindering yourself.
I mean, that's an entire topic in itself, because obviously we talk about proportionality and all that kind of business. I've touched upon proportionality and things like that when I talked about Ripper and sort of covert tactics and things like that. A couple of key points I want to pick up on, though, is that the Apple AirTag is, when you read upon it, and I did read upon it because I was going to write a blog, but I'm not really a massive blog writer. But when I was doing all the research on them, it actually says they are designed not to be used in surveillance.
No.
So they will actively, and I've had a client do this, because just like you, I was smirky when you sort of said I've had a client who went out and bought their own. I had exactly the same client. Can you fit a tracker? Blah, blah, blah. How much does it cost? Give them the price. They go away, they go, "It's all right, I've bought a 25 quid Apple AirTag, I'll do it myself." Yeah. They put it in the partner's car, and then by the time the partner left home and got to work, his phone was already pinging saying, "There's an Apple AirTag near you." There's an Apple AirTag, and he'd and he actually rang her up and sort of said, "Do you know what this means?" So it will alert nearby phones if it's away from the owning phone. So don't invest in one of those. I think it's a waste of time. Yeah. And I think the other key takeaway for trackers as well is that I've again had a client you'll get them where they ring you up and they want to pick your brains and get everything from you, and then go out and buy the kit themselves.
Yeah, do it themselves.
Because it's cheaper. And then I had a client who picked my brains about trackers. What shall I get? We did blah, blah, blah. And I was sort of saying, look, all my trackers are bespoke made, blah, 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 all the stuff that we've just talked about. And then she rang me back a couple of weeks later and went, "Right, I've gone out onto the internet, I bought myself a tracker. Can you come out and fit it for me? How much to fit it?" Yeah. So I said, it's exactly the same price for me to come out and fit it than it is if you'd have hired me to use one of my trackers to go out and fit it. And she's like, "Well, why?" I said, "Well, you get the good bit of kit because obviously you're hiring me, but what you're paying for is me going out in the middle of the night with all the risk, looking at CCTV, people passing by, getting confronted while you're with somebody else's car and you don't live here, all that kind of business, and the travel time and everything. That's what you're paying for.
And the pre-surveillance job. Yeah. That can take me 10 minutes looking at the wherever we're putting the tracker on. That can take me 10 minutes to figure out where I'm going to park the car. I'll never walk the same route in or out either. Yeah. So if it's a cul-de-sac, obviously I have to, but I will not walk the same route back out of that cul-de-sac to my car. Yeah. So doing all that route planning takes time as well, which is what no client ever thinks about.
No. And there's the other thing as well. Where you put it on a vehicle, you need to know where to put it on a vehicle, because I've had somebody who's done a tracker for me and put it on the bloody exhaust pipe. People don't realise out there that obviously how hot they get, and there's a battery in there, and they can explode and cause a fire. And the last thing you want is for somebody's vehicle to be set on fire, either with them in or out of it, and then trying to justify how the fire started with the fire brigade and going, oh look, there's a tracker, and then it comes back to you. So that's something else, is another reason why you would hire a professional to do a professional job, because they've got the knowledge, the expertise, and all everything that goes with it, as well as the kit.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Right, I'm going to wrap it up, because what I do is I keep these episodes, or try to keep these episodes to about an hour. We could talk for easily another hour or so, because we've got loads of kit. There's loads of stories that I've got written down here that we've not even touched upon. There's loads of kit that we've not touched upon. So we'll probably just do this again in another few months' time. I'll invite you back, and we'll have another chat about all.
See what the feedback is. There's probably going to be feedback. Talk more about covert cameras. Talk more about this, please. We'll just do an episode on that.
Well, we can do. We can. So actually, that's a good segue, actually, because what I have wrote down as to sort of wrap this episode up is that so far we're at the year's end. Like I said, this episode will be coming out in December. So although it's only episode 10, I have been going for almost 12 months. Obviously, we're going to review the show. I do get. Thank you very much. I do get a lot of positive feedback from people out there. The feedback is mostly good. I am interested if there's any topics out there that people want to listen to, any stories that I may have got that you want to listen to, any particular segments of the show that people want to introduce. I had an offer of what about hearing funny stories that other operators have had. So if there are any other operators out there that want to send me a funny story that's happened to them, either they've been caught or something happened or something didn't quite the way that it happened or anything like that. So if there's anybody out there who wants to feature a story, I do have an email address, which is diaryofaprivateinvestigator@gmail.com. Most operators out there know me, so you can direct message me anyway on WhatsApp. So send anything in. If there's any listeners out there that want to send me any kind of messages whatsoever, please send it. And finally, if you do enjoy the show, please do take the time to leave a review and press like if you're on YouTube. It does help the channel grow, and obviously we're looking to grow. So with that, thank you, Dan, for coming today. Thank you all the listeners for listening, and I'll speak to you in the new year. Have a good Christmas, and I'll speak to you next year. All right, take care.